I'm kind of lucky to be here, and I want to express my thanks for those of you who are showing up. I see that 10 people are actually in the group uh, in Crowdcast watching right now, and so even though you're technically not being required to register, apparently, of course, you have to be a Crowdcast member, so it tells me that you're here. So that's something that I needed to discover about the program in Crowdcast. If I'm not running a registered only event, do I still see the constituents out there? And I do. So that's helpful. And also, I appreciate all your comments and hope you're getting nice and cozy. We're just going to like kick around for a few more minutes. And if everyone wants to say hi, you can join me. From the green room. You'll notice that one of us is missing. Karen is not with us today. She had some other plans that she had to attend to, so she's gone. And as you notice, there's no really official beginning here, so I'm just rambling along. But I appreciate you people showing up. I don't believe I've met Roxanne Davenport, but I know everyone else: Ron Snaberger, Andrew Hatchett, Scott Scowcroft, Bill Graham, and Lynn Sanders is here, Rain Dowell, Randy Smith, and Elaine Nieberding. Thanks very much for showing up. And as it is, this is still experimental with what we're doing with the Crowdcast, although I'm trying to keep it simple enough so we're actually streaming forward and not being hung up by the technicalities. And so that was an assumption on my behalf, and then I got up today and immediately had technical issues. So I was at my computer an hour beforehand, actually a little more than that, and then I turned it on and everything was going fine, and then all of a sudden Chrome crashed. So I had to restart, do all kind, do the typical clear the cache, so forth. And then I just finally I said close all browser windows, clear cache, restart my Gmail, restart my Crowdcast, restart my G Plus page, start to integrate, crossover, and then I got to Crowdcast, everything was fine, and I did not have a start button. I couldn't start my own Edge HOA. My Crowdcast HOA, there was no button there to start the event. So I sat there puzzling over it for about 5 minutes. I can't make the thing magically appear, so I guess I'm going to have to start a new event. So that's a brief explanation why we are here, straggling forth, and I have imposed upon you people to figure out a puzzle before we get to start our show. So I'm just kind of killing some time. We're going to start 5 minutes late. Well, we're started, but we're not going to start officially until moments from now, and then we'll probably go a little bit overtime, and we'll do that. So anyway, thank you very much for showing up, people. We've been joined by Randy Smith. Let's see. Yeah, a lot of people. Hopefully, we'll get some more, but we're officially going to start. You guys ready? Okay,
Oh
nod
yeah.
up, thumbs up.
Oh yeah.
Okay, well,
Ready as I can be.
today's about mobile marketing, and there's no way we're going to cover it all, but we're going to give a brief look and a synopsis and a cross section of some very, very important things. And the first thing that I wanted to do was take a poll, but I guess since I had to start the new event, I could not prepare for that. So I'm going to like wing it right now and see if I can put a poll together, because I want to start off by asking a question. So the poll that I'm going to ask is, how educated are you regarding mobile marketing? And very simply, I'm going to have some simple answers. You're very informed You're moderately informed. You are somewhat informed or somewhat knowledgeable. Oh, it'd help if I was typing in. Okay, and the fourth one I will put, I am clueless. To try to keep you from answering that, I'll make it kind of uh, somewhat derogatory. Anyway, if people would like to take a look at this poll that I just created and actually give me an idea of just what you know. I mean, of course, it's hard to tell because you probably haven't sat in on a lot of sessions describing so much about mobile marketing. But I think that most people know less than they think they do, mainly because the market is changing so much and so rapidly. So you're going to get some information today that some of it's going to be like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then some of it's going to be somewhat surprising. So I would like to know whether, how you feel about your own self. And then I'm going to take this poll again at the end and see what you think as far as, well, after the program is over and after we've had an hour's worth of discussion or 55 minutes worth of discussion, whether that's changed or not. And I want to see if we have had an influence on your thinking and maybe we've shared something that's been of value to you. So that's the whole incentive for me, is to find out whether we're delivering anything of value to you. So that's my intention there. Anyway, today's about mobile, and I'm going to start off with a few things. But since I'm way into this already, I'm going to ask my green room participants and my associates to say hi and join into this discussion. So Terry Lee, you want to say hi?
Hey, everybody. Uh, I'm going to come in sort of as a devil's advocate because I'm definitely the first person among any of us, most likely, to have used mobile devices in what they used to call what did they call it? Well, where it was all integrated together with phone, video, camera, internet, everything in your phone. And that was back in like 2002. And so I've been through several years of various romances with what a smartphone could do, and eventually I outgrew it. And so I'm going to come from that standpoint. Are all this popularity is it necessarily a real ongoing thing for people who will have access to larger machines, or is it something that eventually will lose its shiny object appeal, and people will realize, it's really kind of a drag trying to read a blog on a smartphone or tablet. But maybe not, because we have better devices now and large with tablets. There were no tablets back when I was doing it, and I was literally doing it on a phone. However, the market's growing internationally, where many people in many countries, their only access to computing power is their smartphone. And so that kind of changes some aspects of this. So anyway, that's my intro.
The statistics are all relevant and relative to geographical areas and cultural traditions and people's tendencies. Okay, now, thank you, Terry. Now we're going to give Molly the mic for a little bit and basically give a little hello and maybe a brief idea of what you're going to deliver today.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Molly Youngblood Geiger of Design Right for You out of Jacksonville, Florida. I participate in several platforms on Google. Currently, I'm a Google Partners Community Ambassador. I'm also a Google Small Business Community Advisor, and I'm also a Google Rising Star. And right now, for me, mobile is a very hot topic. Google, in the last couple of weeks, on 2 different platforms, have come out and publicly stated that mobile usage has doubled in the last year. In addition to that, they've actually stated several different statistics in regards to mobile, its usage, how people are using mobile, just a very variety of different statistics that they have shared. In fact, one of the big announcements that they made just this week is they have a brand new platform for designers, so people like myself who build websites, for a product called Material Design. And I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, but essentially what it is they've taken the actual hardware, the actual smartphone itself, and said, how can we design a website for a better user experience? One of the things that I'm going to be discussing later in our Hangout is something known as the FAB button. It stands for Floating Action Button. And what that means is instead of going onto your smartphone and having to click this link or that link or go here, because I don't know about you, I've been on mobile before, and sometimes it's kind of a clunky, just kind of a clunky experience. And so this FAB button that they're talking about will actually allow a user to do several different actions all from one button. And for me, that as a designer, again, I'm still trying to wrap my head around that. So I'm looking forward to really diving in. I've got a pitch deck to share that Google actually came up with that goes over a lot of statistics, and I'm really excited to talk about the subject today.
Very cool. Now, because of the nature of the particular subject, we are going to be hitting you with a lot of statistics. But part of what has always been my shtick is taking statistics and not leaning on the numbers and not assuming that they mean anything, but to like come to some equations that turns the statistics into actionable efforts and things that make sense to you, and maybe even some insightful things that change the way you look at the statistics. Because sometimes the polarity of a subject will actually determine what you should do, not the numbers themselves, but it actually will steer you towards one decision or one direction or another. And that's one of the things that I use statistics for, is to give me clues where everyone else takes the numbers and says, okay, then that means we should do this. And I'm in the background saying, well, not necessarily, because I think the numbers also reflect blah, blah, blah. So I like to think it into a little bit and determine that there's some underlying factors that you have to work into the whole scheme. By the way, we're going to say hi to Gary Whalen, Daniel Veras, and Jim Sharp, who have also joined us. And I will report also that, let's see, 4, 9, 12 people have taken our poll so far. And I will say that nobody claims that they're very educated regarding mobile. But 4 people said moderately informed, 5 people said somewhat knowledgeable, and 3 admitted to being clueless. Now, I respect that. I doubt that you're totally clueless. You probably have learned a lot of things just out of diffusion from the atmosphere. But making heads or tails of it relative to what you should do about it regarding your marketing and what you should be thinking about, that's the thing that will give you an advantage when it concerns mobile. And to let you know, I'm not much more than moderately informed myself. So although I've got a lot of things to tell you and I've got a lot of the opinions, I don't consider myself on the cutting edge. So just to give you an idea that you folks in the listening audience are definitely not alone. Most of the world is clueless. I mean, to some degree. So let me start off by hitting you with some facts, and then I'm going to turn this over to Molly, where she can drive you into some really hardcore stuff. Okay. I read some of these statistics and reports from several different places, and sometimes they pertain to 2015, sometimes they pertain to 2014, the end of the last year, and sometimes they cover a series of a couple, 3 years, and sometimes they project into the future. They say this is what's going to happen. So I'm going to give you a little overview there. Okay, here's one. Mobile commerce will account for 24.4% of overall e-commerce revenues by the end of 2017. Now, in my opinion, I think that's going to be kind of hard to determine, but I think it's easily believable that a quarter of the online stuff will be involving mobile. But there are other factors that we're going to describe later on. I've got a little slideshow for you. They're going to make you second think that percentage also, because whether or not mobile devices actually convert and cause sales through the mobile device, that's another story. Okay, and here's another factor. 44% of consumers would like brands to deliver deals and coupons to their mobile devices. Now, when I think of transferring to a computer or transferring to a phone instead of a computer, I'm the last one that wants to see ads. But the mobile users are out there traveling, buying, they're using their GPS, they're doing searches for restaurants and laundry places, and they're doing a lot of I've got to do this now type of searches, and they're going to do immediately minor spending as they drive and as they travel. And that's different than someone shopping for a house, shopping for a car, researching for some massive change in their lives and investing a lot of money. You don't do that while you're driving around necessarily. So we need to keep in mind that depending upon where you are and what you're doing, mobile is important or less important. And we also have to consider that mobile does not stand alone. Very few times. Now, yes, there are some kids that use apps. There are some people who live on their phones. But very few hard decisions are made just with a cell phone. A lot of daily stuff, a lot of daily apps and so forth. As a matter of fact, let's talk about apps briefly. Now, with the millions of people dealing with mobile phones, the fact of the matter is that apps dominate the use online with the phones. With smartphones, most people are using apps, and you're gonna get a clear idea of that with my slideshow later. But the top apps used are like this in order up to the most important or the most dominant one: iTunes, Instagram, Google Plus, Facebook Messenger, Google Maps, Google Play, YouTube, which is Google, Google Search, and of course the top seat, Facebook. Now, when you consider all these things, there's a lot going on, but so much of it has to do with two things: utility to facilitate what you're doing during the day, search, play, go here, go there, and social media, communication, talking to your friends, expressing yourself, jive talking, messing around. So Facebook, of course, is dominant. But the other things are so utilitarian. Very little of any of those apps have to do with selling, buying, consumption. But they guide people towards spots where they do experience an expression and share ideas on stuff, and they begin wanting things. And of course, the influence is going to be that they end up wanting something and deciding to buy it. They'll do the research using some of those tools and go buy something. But that's not what they're doing on the general all day long thing, with probably the exception to the rule being something like restaurants. Because no matter where you're going to the day, you're going to stop 1, 2, or 3 times and have something to eat. So yes, restaurants and phone apps is an easy marriage, but not everything is going to be affected the same way as a restaurant with phone apps. So please keep this in mind. Another thing about mobile. Some reports regarding responsive design say that 82% of designers are designing in responsive design. Yet another report states that only 36% of websites are actually responsive and mobile compatible, but over half of those are using alternate URLs to push people to a mobile website, even if it's a subdomain, as opposed to being responsive. So there's a lot of wrong ways to do it going on, and some of the people got stuck with that because Google only recently declared that responsive was what they preferred. So in May or so, they made the declaration. But it goes to show you that although 82% of the people are supposedly designing responsively, they've been designing a lot of websites over the years that are not responsive. So the web's got a long way to go. So this is just to give you a basic, fundamental overview of the marketplace. And now I'm going to turn things over to Molly, and she's going to tell you some of the bare facts. Luckily, these will be recorded so that you can review back over them, because I know that she's going to deliver a lot of value and a lot of stuff that you're going to really want to review. So Molly, can I turn this over to you now?
Sure. Sorry about that. I had a problem there. Yeah, so just quickly to comment on what you were just talking about. Currently, there are over 300 million apps. I wanted to throw that number out there at people. Also, the initiative that you're referring to is known as Mobilegeddon, and this happened about 2.5 months ago, where Google came out and publicly declared that they were actually going to give websites who were responsive or mobile-friendly preferential treatment in regards to search. So that's why it's very important, if our audience out there, if you don't have a responsive website design, you really need to consider doing so. It's not only going to improve the experience of people visiting your website from mobile, but it's actually going to help with the search results, meaning if somebody's searching for your business and your website's been optimized for search, it will actually help you get on page 1. So going into that, about 2.5, 3 weeks ago, within the Google Partners community and the Google Small Business community, they both came out with hangouts about this Mobilegeddon and what agencies or business owners can do to make sure that they are in line with this mobile movement. In fact, I've been doing a lot of research, and in addition to everything moving more towards mobile, there's actually platforms out there, like I mentioned earlier, like the Material Design, where they're actually programming platforms that have nothing to do except with mobile. In fact, if you want to really get out there in outer space, they have actually partnered with Levi in regards to coming up with smart clothing. And what I mean by that is they're actually working on a platform right now where they're going to make clothing available that you can actually visit on the internet. So with that, what I'd like to do next is share the actual presentation that Google shared in regards to this. Let me get my screen share going here, and we'll take it from there. Can everybody see my screen? Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Okay, so this is not the first slide of the pitch deck, but I wanted to post this first because it says we don't go online, we live online. And I think for any business owner out there, that is a true statement. I don't know about you, I'm constantly online. Even just yesterday, I was out shopping, and I remembered there was a hangout that Google Partners was posting. I was like, oh, I don't want to miss this, I want to catch this. And so I actually sat and watched the hangout. It was a quick one, it was like 20 minutes from my mobile phone. Above and beyond that, just in regards to just recreational use of my phone, about 2 weeks ago, I was playing with my Chromecast. If people aren't familiar with what a Chromecast is, it's a dongle that you actually put into an HDMI port that you can literally take your mobile device and throw whatever you're watching from your smartphone onto a monitor. And so I was playing around with it, and I thought, hey, I wonder if I could switch between channels. And so I actually was able to get 2 different channels and use my mobile device like a remote control. That actually blew my mind. But going back to this pitch deck, I wanted to go ahead and start sharing some information about some of the statistics that Google came up with. Right here, I'm presenting a slide that says the average time spent per day by U.S. adults. We have TV right here, radio, print, digital, and other. And you'll notice there's a big shift on digital. Above that, most of the growth in digital from here on and out will be from mobile. They were actually able to go in here and dissect the information about the digital usage. This I found very interesting. There is actually a definition now of people who are afraid of being without their mobile device. It's called nomophobia. Yeah, this is how serious this is, folks. See, Google is not, joking with. They really are very focused on mobile users and their activities. But going above and beyond that, we have something that they've actually come up with their own definition of what happens when a user's on a mobile device and they make a decision. And what this definition is called is it's called a micro moment. I'll just quickly read it. A moment people reflexively turn to digital and act on a need in that moment. A need to learn, a need to discover, or to buy something. It also means an intent-rich moment when decisions are being made or preferences are being shaped. So at this point, not only are we discussing more about mobile, but we're actually discussing decisions or actions or things that people are doing when they are on their mobile device. Mobile has now changed how we act and react in life. The immediacy of action, acting on any stimulus whenever we're motivated to, high expectations for relevance and frictionless experiences, and unscripted decisions, people are more loyal to the need of moment versus a brand. So from there, we create more value for mobile. Evaluate a mobile experience. Evaluate how mobile users engage with your site and build an experience that facilitates conversions. Measure the full value of mobile. Adjust how you measure this behavior and get more from a holistic view of the FVOM. I'll go into that definition a little bit later. It's very critical to monitor the changes in search across devices. And this is kind of where I'm coming from, because being that I'm an agency, I do website design, I come up with digital campaigns for people. It's one thing to get everything set up. We all know how to do that. But for me, it's actually monitoring, okay, well, what's happening with the campaign after I set it up? Is it getting more conversions? Is it getting more clicks? Is it getting more website views? So to further go into the evaluation mode, first we're going to discuss the mobile-friendly test. This is and I'll share the link on the event page after the event, but Google has come up with a tool called the mobile-friendly test. This test will analyze your URL and report the page has a mobile-friendly design. I've used this tool on several of my clients. In fact, recently one of my clients, Antique Bail Bonds, I designed her website several years back, about 4 or 5 years ago. And she came to me and she's like, Molly, I've heard about this responsive design. Can you design me a website that's responsive? And I actually was able to take her old website and test it on this mobile-friendly test. And so from there, she's like, oh my gosh, my website, it looks horrible. I definitely need to get a responsive design. So I think that's a really good test for, or a really good tool for people to know about. Another tool that Google has come up with is called SpageSpeed Insights. Basically what this does is it evaluates mobile and desktop website load time. In my world, I have 3 seconds to catch a user's attention. And if I've got a website that's slow, that say maybe it's bogged down because there's not enough bandwidth or not enough space for the website to actually load, that's a big problem. We definitely want to make sure that your website is downloading at a very fast rate. I can tell you websites on my server download in 0.3 of a second. I have it set up that way because I want all of my clients to know that when they host their website with my agency, it not only is going to be responsive, but it will download quickly, because if I can't produce those results for my clients, then that's not going to gain any customers for them, and I haven't done my job, and I'm not going to let that happen. So
yeah, Molly,
going on,
Molly,
yep.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
Please repeat that again as far as what you guarantee as far as time of website appearance. How long before a website actually shows? When I'm on my cell phone and I type in the URL and I say go, how long should it take before it shows up?
It should take 0.1 of a second. It shouldn't take any time at all. It literally, as soon as you type in that URL or you click that link, it should instantly go to that website.
Okay, so we're basically talking about a split second, and yet
yeah, literally tenths of a second, it should go to a website.
Yeah, and we are relying on the fact that we're probably talking about the cutting edge Android and the iPhone 6 and the things that are the fastest on the market to produce this, right? So what about a Samsung 2 S2, or what about an iPhone 3? And
Right.
what change would be involved in that and the older technology?
Right. Well, that's a very interesting question, Roland, and one that I've actually addressed in my own life. I personally try to stay up, try to keep my device updated to the most recent version, just because as the technology changes, it doesn't necessarily mean it will render on an older device. So that's kind of how they have it set up. It's kind of set up in the sense that, well, we're doing all these improvements. And I tell this to people all the time. This is kind of my little tagline. It's either you keep up with technology or you get left behind. It's as simple as that. You either keep up or you get left behind. That's it.
Yeah, but this is somewhat an irrelevant question, though, Roland, because delivery of the data is what they're talking about by page speed. Is how fast does your data get to that phone through whatever service? And in other words, is your site loaded with bloat? Does it have a whole bunch of code that's not necessary? Have your JavaScripts and CSS scripts been minified so that there's not spaces between every line? All of that adds to bloat, and it slows down the delivery of the content. Whether your phone is an old one that takes longer to process that content is not really what they're concerned about. But your phone will process the content faster if it's all been minified and if it's been optimized. It will process it faster because it doesn't have to go through as much data. That's part of why it gets delivered fast. That's also going to contribute to it being processed faster.
Yeah, so real quickly, this is the type of information you're going to see if you do a test of your website or maybe your competitor's website to see what they're doing. It's going to tell you about the serving and the speed, the checkout flow, product landing pages, and advanced optimization. There's all types of resources available online about optimizing your website for search. Also, wanted to remind people we're not using the Q&A app here, but if you do have questions, please post them to the event page, either during the event or after the event in Replay City. I'm always available to reach out and answer questions about pretty much website design, Google products, anything you might have questions about. But I want to quickly go into the evolution of estimated total conversions in regards to online sales, app downloads, phone calls, estimated cross-device conversion, and estimated in-store purchases. There has been a huge shift, again, going back to the micro moments, where people are making more online sales, and they're downloading more apps, and they're making more phone calls, and you have cross-device conversions going on, and in-store purchases. In fact, there was a statistic released that 50% of people that did a search on mobile phone actually went out within 24 hours and went to a store and made an in-store purchase. And for me, that's a really big thing, because if you're a brick and mortar location and you have your website optimized for the web, and 50% of the people that come to your website from a mobile device actually will come in your store and make a purchase, to me that's a no-brainer. So I want to quickly go on, though, and talk about the full...
One second, Molly. I'd like to ask a question, though, about that. When you say 50% are going to come into your store, well, doesn't that address what stage of the buying decision process that customer was at? Or were they in the final, do they have it in stock stage? Were they in that final stage of the 5 stages of a decision? Buying decision? Which stage were they in when that happened? That's important to consider. It's not just this magic, oh, they did a search and they showed up in my store. I mean, you still have to create a relationship, some brand awareness, all these other steps must been in place before the customer even realized that they had a problem, that they had a place a way to solve the problem. They did some research. They don't just willy-nilly, not everybody just goes and makes a decision like that the same day within 24 hours, certainly not 50%. I think that they're addressing where they made a decision that they needed something, made a decision of what it was they wanted, and now we're in the final stages of finding out if it was in stock somewhere nearby so they wouldn't have to deal with shipping costs. That's
Right,
my
that's actually
opinion.
that's a really good, some really good insights, and that's actually something Google is still in the process of analyzing, in the sense that, well, what does make a person make a purchase on a mobile device or a laptop, or decide to go into a store? What is it, something that they spent time researching, or is it something they made an instant decision and they just decided to go purchase it? That's something they are actually still analyzing that data right now. For me, I still am wondering the same question. What is it that makes that person decide to sit there from their smartphone and buy something? Or I've actually even did a hangout with somebody who specializes in something we call, it's a Google product called Google Shopping. And what Google Shopping is it's tied into the AdWords platform. Essentially what you do is, in addition to optimizing a client's AdWords campaign, you actually take their products and optimize them for shopping. Meaning, if somebody goes and types black t-shirt, well, what happens is when you type black t-shirt, you'll actually see a knowledge graph box come up with a variety of different resellers who are selling black t-shirts. So that's a really good question. I don't have a complete answer for it right now, but maybe we could do a hangout later, maybe later on in our series, about what is that factor that makes somebody make that purchase. But I do kind of want to get back to the pitch deck, because I don't want to. We're getting near the end of it. The full value of mobile review, manually input or import AdWords data about in-store visits, calls, apps, and cross-device conversions. The calculator will provide information on your return on investment. That's a catchphrase I use all the time. I explain to clients that it really is an investment for your business to take the time to get your website optimized for mobile. And people go, oh, well, it's going to cost me money out of pocket, yada, yada. Well, yes, it is going to cost you money out of pocket up front, but we have to look at the big picture. We have to look at, well, if we optimize your website, say if you sell things online, and we optimize your AdWords campaign, and we optimize it for search, and we optimize it for Google Shopping, and we get more sales from your website, or we get more people going into your store because you've optimized the website, well, then you're going to get more sales, meaning you've taken, by optimizing it, and produced a return on your investment, meaning you're actually earning more income because you paid the money up front to optimize it. So, and that's something we get into, is called cost per acquisition, and that is, how much money does it cost us to go out there and get more sales? And obviously, the more sales we get, the lower the cost per acquisition. So this is something a lot of digital agencies like myself, these are some real-time concerns that we have when we take on a client. We need to produce a return. So going into that, I just quickly want to go into the monitoring of the campaign. This is something, again, as a digital agency, we're very excited, want to know, well, how are people searching for the website? Are they visiting it from an AdWords campaign, or is it an organic search? Is it a social thing where they've seen the brand online? We really get down to the nitty-gritty and find out, well, how are people finding the business? This particular vertical trends report talks about nutrition bars, cross-platform search trends, and mobile auction metric evolution. It has a quick fact here that queries grew by 14% in Q1 2015 in the nutrition bars category. Desktop actually declined by 4%. Mobile queries grew by 49%. Tablet searches declined by 2%. So I think when you have insights like this, it really does shed light to an agency who's trying to optimize a campaign for a client. Okay, where do I need to focus on this client? What do I need to do to make sure that this client's going to get a return on their investment? And then finally, this is the last slide of the pitch deck, mobile opportunities report. 51% of searches on your top terms are on mobile versus 19% of account impressions. Just quickly, what an impression is, let's say somebody goes and they type, I don't know, t-shirt, and a bunch of different AdWords campaigns come up, or advertisements. Well, an impression is just that advertisement showing up, meaning it's not necessarily a click, it just shows up. So from here, we want to address the fact that, again, a lot of people are now going to the mobile device to search for different things versus going to a laptop or going to a tablet. So this is some of the information that I learned about. Again, I'm going to be sharing the link to the mobile-friendly tool and the Page Insights tool within the Hangout, or within the event page. So does anybody have any questions or comments they'd like to make?
You know, let's
Sure, I do.
I was thinking of that could take the rest of our hour for sure. But what I'm thinking is, like, let's pay attention to what the people are posting, and I'm getting prepared to do a little bit of a presentation here. But Molly, that was a mouthful, and thank you very much for
Well,
preparing.
still, let's not
the
cut
slides.
off. She just made a bunch of blanket statements that all are questionable, and I want to address the audience to question them, because, like I said to you earlier, statistics is the devil's arithmetic. Okay.
I agree totally.
You can say anything. These are blanket statements that are so broad, we have no idea what specifics are involved. We have no idea what's pushing those numbers up to 51%. No idea. It never even gives us a hint as to what pushes those statistics so high. It may be searches for potato chips for all we know. We cannot tell. It may just be an indication that searches for potato chips are through the roof, and that has pushed every statistic up, but we have no idea. And so looking at these statistics is annoying to me because it doesn't tell me anything other than to be a great selling tool for web developers, and that's about it.
Well, I tell you what, Terry, I'm going to play off of the annoyance factor, because I'm going to show you a bunch of graphs right now.
Oh, no!
And the reason that I'm doing it is I want to reinterpret what people are thinking about the graphs, because they don't mean necessarily what you think they do, or even what the person that put it up there intends it to do. So I want to do that, and then we'll
As an aside, folks, Roland kind of encouraged me to make that rant as a lead into to what he's about. Okay.
And basically, I want you to comment, but let's keep it limited. You know, make your point. I don't want you to go off, because we're going to run out of time really, really fast, and I got about 12 slides. So let's see what we can get through. Okay, so the concept is basically this: what do mobile statistics really indicate? So when we see these numbers, what are we talking about? Well, one of the first things that I want to mention, aside from all this, is that there's dying media trends on the side of internet. And like, if you take newspapers, for instance, they went down like below half between 2008 and 2014. They're just like completely dying and going low. So a lot of newspapers are closing down and stuff. It's an indicator of what the internet is all about and how that's affecting the world. So there was a lady named Mary Meeker, who was an analyst for Kleiner Perkins, Caulfield, and Byers, and she was researching technology, and she made the comment, mobile will overtake fixed internet by 2014. Now, what did she mean by that? She meant that mobile, in other words, cell phones and maybe tablets, will be more predominant for the internet search than computers or fixed internet. So this is what that looks like right here. Everybody see that okay? Now, I want for everyone to note that the desktop, which I presume means laptops and computers and PCs and desktops, you know, in general, because people use laptops as their main computers, but they also use them as a semi-mobile device, so it's kind of hard to distinguish. However, it's debatable whether that's, you know, how the laptop fits in, but whether tablets should be considered computer substitutes or not is another story, because it's not so much just a mobile device, you know, travel thing. Some people use it like an iPad completely as their computer. So there's a crossover element there, and so forth. So
Yeah, the Surface Pro 3 users are the same way. It looks
yeah,
like a
exactly.
tablet, but
That's a powerful, powerful tablet. So as you look at this, the thing that I want you to note is that although mobile overtook desktop use, apparently in 2014, desktop use did not go down. It's continuing to go up. So what this is more of an indication of is that mobile use is becoming more user friendly as people are traveling, and more people are shifting there because they can use it differently than the computer sitting at their desk at home. So let's move on. So this is basically a simple uh, charts indicating that from 2015, mobile ad spending was 28.7 billion, and by 2019, it's going to more than double, or even by 2018, it's going to more than double. And that's not to say the spending is such that, let's see, how should I put this? Well, basically, I just want you to note that the spending doesn't address how you should spend your money on advertising, and whether it's anyway. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Let's move on to the next slide. The next chart shows PCs and laptops lead as far as usage. As a part of the most preferential and popular thing on the internet. So that's followed by the smartphone, and then tablets bring up the rear. But basically all three are performing the same job. Now the only exception being gaming consoles don't necessarily generate sales other than in the sales community of games. But this is showing that PCs are still strong, smartphones are second, and tablets are third. But I have a feeling that it's really mixed, and the impact point is with all three, not just one. You'll see that in a future slide here.
wait, didn't that just contradict what you said 2 slides ago?
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, 2 slides ago you said how mobile is on this super rise and just matched fixed devices, PCs and laptops, in search. And then this one says, oh no, 91% of PCs and laptops are used to search.
Well, you know,
And only a mere, 80% of smartphones and 47 tablets are used.
yeah.
So.
Well, in the one case, they're talking about the rise in percentages, and I don't think that the numbers actually equate because, for instance, there are a lot more smartphones out there than computers, and as I said before, they're crossover and stuff. So really, the percentages alter depending upon the actual viewpoint, and that's why these statistics are so different. And that's the best explanation I have for you, Terry. Okay, so let's continue on. And I don't claim that these statistics, that I understand them completely. I think there's a lot more to dig in and to understand it. But what I do want to suggest to the people is, as you're looking at these statistics, they don't necessarily mean what we think they mean. Now, this one demonstrates what I was saying earlier, and that it groups things into different sections. For PC only, which is the section right here, and then a combination of PC, mobile, and tablet right here, and then mobile and tablet only right here. In other words, people that only have the mobile and tablet and don't have a home PC, and then people that have all three, and then the people that rely on the PC only. And the vast majority in the center, the active group, is definitely the people that use all three in some combination, depending upon where they are in their day and depending upon what they're doing. So, I mean, that's a different viewpoint than, gee, should we just focus on mobile, or should we just focus on websites with responsive design and so forth? You have to really take a look at the overall action of what's going on and the users, what they're doing. And when you see that, it will change the way you're going to design, how you're going to design. So one of the things that they stress in this chart is that search is still the predominant thing. No matter what your starting point is, people are searching. And even if you have, they say that in general they start with a search, even on a cell phone. But even with the branded apps, even if you're going to look for an app, you're going to have to find that app. And so how are you going to find it? You're going to go to a store, or you're going to an online store or a community or something. And within that community, they're not going to feature just every Tom, Dick, and Harry at the top of the list. You're still going to have to be relevant, and you're still going to have to be important, and you're going to still have to be popular within the group, and that's how you're going to find yourself noticeable and able to be found, so that your app can be found, so that it can become useful to the people. So no matter what, search indicates that search engine optimization, and that is very, very important. Let's see what slide we're on here now. Okay, this is interesting. We're going to find some factors on this one that may seem to be contradictory to some future information too. But what this actually demonstrates is that online, from a cell phone, most of the use is with apps. Now, the difference being just the general search, they call that the mobile web. And the mobile web is just web-friendly, can be seen on the cell phone, but is not accessed via an app. And I'm assuming that people understand what an app is, and so I'm not going to get into that because that's another venture. But this chart is saying that 89% of those people are using apps. So it's very evident that the smartphone users are app-oriented, and that's primarily what they do when they're on their cell phone. Now this is so very interesting. It stuns me. And Terry, you probably have something to say about this. I want you to notice, and I'm going to use my cursor to indicate this chart because I wish it was organized a little differently. But here in the middle is smartphone, followed by iPhone, followed by 2 jumps down, the Android phone. Now those are the 3 phones. Oh, I'm sorry, and Windows phones. And this chart has to do with conversions. And of course, conversions could be any kind of a click-through or possibly a sale. Conversion is different depending upon where you are, what you're doing. Now, for the time being, I just want everyone to ignore Kindle Fire because that's going to be a very, very limited market. But the 3 winners here are iPad, tablet, and desktop. And now I'm sure that in the mix there, they're also referring to laptops. But you'll notice that these 3 columns, 1, 2, 3, are all pretty much double what the phones are: smartphone, iPhone, Android, and Windows. They're pretty much double except for the Android tablet. So what does this indicate? It indicates that although people are accessing information more often and prolifically on the cell phone, that the desktops, tablets, and iPads are the places that the people are actually converting to a higher percentage rate, almost double of what the smartphones are. So the misnomer that everyone sees is like they say, oh yeah, everything's going smartphone. Well, what you don't realize is that they're using the smartphone, but they're not using it to buy, and that makes a big difference.
Yeah, and it points out the iPad is many people's only computer nowadays too, and that would be, it's really the equivalent of their desktop nowadays. That's what I think this is saying pretty
Absolutely.
loudly.
Well, I think that we can logically assume, because I know that people make the decision between buying a laptop and buying an iPad, and when the bottom line comes out, they're like tossing a 6 in one hand, a half a dozen in the other, and a lot of them end up with the iPad just out of convenience. That they don't necessarily cost less. So it's a
Well,
convenience
the
issue. And
size of the screen too, and the clarity. I mean, it's like having a computer screen. It's much larger. It's easier to read. I can read blogs. I can read articles. It's just a reading machine deluxe, as is the Kindle Fire. And I think the Kindle Fire numbers are so high because people buy more books from their Kindle Fire. They go to Amazon, they buy books right from the Kindle Fire, and so you've got a high rate of turnover there. Um, Also, the add to cart rates. That's another thing you have to watch because how they relate to the sales conversion rates. Sometimes by sales conversion being lower than add to cart is an indicator of cart abandonment, where people add stuff to cart and then don't actually complete the sale on that
right,
device.
right,
So, but if they add it to the cart and then come back later and complete the sale, that's considered a sales conversion. Is when they complete the sale by
right.
most people.
Very good. And we can definitely see that the actual conversion of selling, the actual consumer process of buying the product is definitely commensurate with the overall scores there, and it's all basically in line that the desktop, tablet, and iPad rule for conversions and for add to cart in both cases over the cell phones in general. Okay, let's move on because I'm running out of time here. Now, this is a very interesting um, graph, and it shows again that the time spent on Android and iOS devices, 80% of it, very simply, is in apps. Now, there's Facebook as a big piece of that. Entertainment, utility, in other words, what am I doing during the day and how does this app facilitate what I'm going to do? Timers, reminders, different things that process people today. Social networking, which I don't know why that's not part of that. News, a little bit there. Productivity, well, there's not much for productivity yet, but it's getting there. The phones are getting bigger and bigger and bigger as far as what they can do. And basically there's a merger. Phones are getting more computer-like, and computers are getting more phone-like. So both are affecting the market. And of course, this big chunk of games, is like incomprehensible to me because I'm not a gamer. But that's definitely what a lot of people are doing. It has nothing to do with our sales and stuff. Or you can tell me if I'm wrong about that. Moving on to the next one, I really wanted to look at this for a good solid 2 minutes. This chart basically shows the preferences throughout the day for mobile and smartphones, peaking around early morning, right there, and then especially late evening, right there. Okay, and then you've got tablets, which kind of follow the same trend, but really peak out way above everybody when it comes to the late prime time. Maybe that indicates that people are watching Netflix in bed. Maybe, yeah, I don't know. But anyway, that's an interesting graph. And then, of course, the orange line has to do with PCs and desktops. So, of course, it's going to like really dominate the work hours, and yet it doesn't really taper off much. While the other things move up, it stays in there, hangs in there, and then drops off with the rest of the stuff. But the thing that I want to emphasize here is that all three are strong. We're talking about three different platforms, and not one of those lines indicates that you should do one and not the other two, or two and not the other one. I mean, basically, when you're designing for mobile, you have to design for all three. So that's why we say, and I've said it before, mobile first, but not only. And so, yep, it's got to be responsive to have one source for your data, but it's got to be able to be viewed on the cell phone first, but admissible on the tablet and still acceptable on the computer. And if you can do well on all three, you've got the winning proposition.
I think those numbers actually show the difference on why people switch devices, meaning, okay, well, they're on a PC during the middle of the day, it makes sense, they're working. Tablet, they're sitting on their couch, so they want something, a large screen that they can see, but at night they may go to a movie or go to dinner or whatever, and they have to take their mobile device with them. So really interesting. Thanks for sharing that, Roland.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I thought all these slides indicated, some interesting stuff.
Now
Go ahead.
this of course is talking about developed countries where PCs are already proliferated in a huge way.
Agreed.
For the last 30 years. And you go to developing countries, and it's just mobile is just a straight line for the whole time of day, every time of day, mobile.
Right,
that's
right.
everybody's computer over there. And so anyone really looking to do international reach, especially in the developing countries, where the markets are exploding as a result of the smartphone proliferation. And education is one of those areas that's looking at this, as how to deliver educational content through a smartphone, for instance. A little teeny weeny phone, I'm going to get my college degree. But still, that is how it's going to happen. It's education is key to developing nations succeeding and pulling out of poverty, and so educators figuring out how to deliver content through a smartphone is very, very important. And there's other areas too that it's very important, informational types of approaches. I don't know as much about the buying thing. Maybe it's different cultures have different levels of consumerism, and so you really got to weigh that thing too. The difference just of where are they at in terms of the growth of consumerism. And
I think you could have a whole hangout just about delivering education through mobile devices or through websites. I actually saw an article 2-3 weeks ago where school children are now delivering their assignments electronically, and I thought that was, like, wow, that's crazy.
Everywhere.
I'm actually working. Yeah. So again, I have several different aspects of mobile I'd like to talk about, but we're actually over our hour at this point. And Roland,
Yes.
would you be open to maybe hosting another hangout about? I know Terry had an idea about the buying aspect on mobile. That's a whole hangout. The education aspect on mobile. That's a whole hangout. I personally would like to talk about the different aspects of mobile, meaning what are people doing on mobile. So that's 3 different hangouts right there that I can think of.
Well, if this discussion today and some of these charts and some of the points that we've made and some of the data that you've handed them causes people to be more interested in mobile, that's the whole world right now. So I'm open to adding some more sessions on this and focusing on some stuff that will make a difference in people's lives. Let me go to this last slide because we're wrapping it up. And very simply, this last slide shows that most people are on a laptop or a desktop for internet access, followed by tablets, followed by smartphones. I mean, followed by smartphones and followed by tablets. And
I myself have stopped using my other. I've stopped using my other.
I think most of us in the 98% here are probably other also. So, other than the other, that is. But anyway, it shows you that regardless of what people are doing, you can't do one of them. You can't program for PCs. You can't program for tablets. You can't program for your smartphone. Excuse me. It's got to be all 3. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we've covered a lot of territory with all this, and I've got more that I would like to show you, but I'm going to unshare my screen here and attempt to wrap up this program. Basically, the idea was to give you an overview of the mobile environment. Now, if we succeeded in that, please take the secondary poll that I told you about, and I would appreciate it if you gave us an idea of what you thought about the event, the session, and whether it accomplished what we wanted to, whether we added to your knowledge base, whether it was handy and what you thought of it. And of course, your comments in the comment stream, I'm going to examine these carefully because during the course of the event, I didn't have a chance to even hardly look at them. And I did ascertain that the green dot going up the slot was Scott Scowcroft, and I figured that that out. But thank you everyone for coming. I appreciate it, and we had a little smaller group than usual, but we had plenty of confusion for you to get here. So I'm expressing my thanks. I also want to thank my green room people and for putting up with our technical difficulties. We almost didn't have an event today, but we figured it out. So thank you everyone for dealing with it, and I'll look forward to the results of our poll, and I hope we were of some good to you today. So this is Roland signing off for Terry and Molly and me for the Saturday Morning Marketing Smarties. Good day, everybody.